condition. Breeze, winds gusting as high as 20 miles per hour. Windy conditions also expected this evening and tomorrow as well, gusting up to 20 miles per hour tonight through tomorrow. This evening's forecasted lows, 47 degrees. Tomorrow's forecasted highs, 69 degrees. Same thing expected on Monday as well. And your boaters forecast for tonight, northwest winds 15 to 25 knots, gusting up to 35 knots. Wind waves 4 to 5 feet, west swells 2 to 3 feet at 14 seconds, and southwest up to 2 feet at 16 seconds. Highway 1 southbound and northbound, actually, slow moving near Soquel Avenue, near that construction zone, speeds down to about 20 to 30 miles per hour. The time is now 1:06. Coming up next here on your favorite radio station, it's time for McCollum Wellness Radio.
Somebody, not just anybody, you know, I need someone. Younger than today, you never leave the bed, it's open anyway. Now these days are gone.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is Dr. Duncan McCollum here. I'm sure none of you have ever heard that song before. And I know that we have to only have it on for 30 seconds because somebody might recognize it and I might get in trouble for it. But we're all about health, and I have a really fun show today. I've brought in a guest, Natalie. She runs and she heads up the peripheral neuropathy program at the office, and she's just so full of knowledge and understands, you know, what can be done and what can't be done. So welcome, Natalie. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Hi, Santa Cruz. I also should let all of you guys know that we have our therapy dog, Buckley, here today. If you've been into our office and have met me, you've met Buckley. He comes everywhere with me, and he is right next to my feet, here to also give all the love to you guys in Santa Cruz today.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and that's what it's all about is, you know, the 3 parts of healing is the physical part, which is the chiropractic, of course, and then the chemical part, which a lot of times peripheral neuropathy damage is caused by a plethora of toxins that we've developed over a lifetime, even 4 generations down through mom's umbilical blood, like lead and mercury, 278 other toxins that are known to come through the umbilical blood for babies that haven't even lived outside the womb. So pretty crazy. And then we plop down on this planet only to be filled up with more and more toxins. And eventually it starts to damage the nerves, where at the extremities, the farthest places of your hand. So I'm going to start by just reading something that I've read before on the show, but I'm going to read it again. It's also in my new book, Turn Back Your it's called New Hope for Peripheral Neuropathy, aka Turn Back Your Biological Clock. It's the 2nd edition, and it's loaded with a lot of more information since I originally wrote it. So this is a letter to my office. It says, or a letter to a friend. It says, "Dear friend, I'm not really sure when I first noticed it, nor what it was I did notice. All I remember was that one day there was just this feeling of foreboding in me, kind of like I was doomed. At first, it would just fade in and out, and I wasn't really sure. I didn't want to believe it was there. I think I was trying to will it away. It didn't work. That was 3 years ago, and now it seems my worst dreams have come true. Now it's with me every day. When I wake up, if I even sleep, I spend a few minutes taking stock, hoping it might have magically gone away. Well, that was what I did for a while, but now it's part of me every moment, and it won't go away." The 2 words that you don't want to hear are peripheral neuropathy. Now, up until a few months ago, several months ago, this was a condition that was very difficult to even know that you could help with, because the traditional medicine would throw their hands up, and we can talk about what our patients have told us if they've come over from traditional medicine, and the solution was medicate it and deal with it. And so Nats, why don't you tell us a little bit about what your role is in the office, what you see. Maybe we can go over some lists of things that people might recognized as symptoms of peripheral neuropathy.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I've been in this industry for quite a while now, and for a long time, Dr. McCollum over at our brick and mortar McCollum Family Chiropractic, we specialize in just chiropractic. And we would have a lot of folks come in who had characteristics and symptoms from peripheral neuropathy. And we did what we knew, which was chiropractic, and the greatest physician that ever lived lives inside of you. And if you guys listen to McCollum Wellness Radio here on KSCO, you're aware of that. And we have been able to help so many people with chiropractic. And a couple years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, we added in the soft wave therapy machine. And Dr. McCollum, who was the sole chiropractor at the time, ran into an issue where he was having trouble lifting his arm, which as a chiropractor is not ideal. So he seeked out something called the soft wave therapy. You guys also may know it as a TRT machine. And after one treatment, had almost complete range of motion back in his arm and knew he had to bring it into the office and to the community. So we were able to couple chiropractic with the soft wave therapy for folks who really needed a little bit extra love and support, so that their body could do what it's supposed to do and what it does, which is heal itself. And for a long time, that was our solution for these folks who were suffering with a list of things, but particularly neuropathy. And about a year ago, we were introduced to a man, a doctor, Dr. Dan McCollum, who we've had on the radio show before, and his grandmother had neuropathy, and it was something that really fueled him. And so he came up with and put together the Nerve Coach, which is the peripheral neuropathy program. And since we've brought that into our office and trained in it, it has been absolutely a game changer. I have helped take dozens and dozens of patients through the protocols and the program in our office, and it has been nothing short but miraculous and amazing. And yeah, if when he asked if I wanted to join him on the show, I thought about it, and if I'm able to help inspire just one of you to come into the office and see what we do, and even more, get you on these protocols and be able to help you, then it would definitely be worth my time to come and share that with you guys.
Yeah, thank you. And it's so fun working with you because you are so knowledgeable and you really help people feel comfortable and make sure that they understand what it is that they need to do and when and why. And so that's very cool. Yeah, when we brought the TRT machine in my office, it was the first one in, I think, well, I know Northern California. That was in 2019. And we've never stopped. But the thing is that we have found that the more and more different type of protocols that we do, and we'll talk about them a little bit more later in the show, exactly what it is that they're accomplishing and how it works. But it's just amazing that, when you go to, we have one patient come in this week or last week, and we'll probably talk about some of the successes, but this one person was saying that they'd been to 2 different doctors, and I won't mention the type, but the same type. And both of them looked at the neuropathy, stuck a needle in their foot, is the way they described it, and said, yeah, we can't do anything about it. Here's some medication. And the medication is usually an off-label epileptic seizure medication. So, if that's what you're hearing, then you know what? Open your ears and your eyes, because unless there's something else out there I don't know about, we're about the only game in town that's really, really changing things dramatically. So, Natalie, what are some of the symptoms that people will complain about that we know we can help them with?
Yeah, we brought in a list that we give to new patients to come in, just to see if they might have it, if they qualify to move forward with some of the tests we have. And some of the most common symptoms are trouble walking, being concerned of tripping, balance issues, difficulty on stairs, trouble falling asleep, staying asleep. One thing I hear a lot is they have to take the sheets off their feet at night. The rest of their body is fine, but if the sheets can't touch their feet.
We have kind of a funny story in a way, funny in that it got better, but
Yeah.
you know what I'm talking about, why don't you tell that?
I do. We had this lovely gal who's completed the program, or the initial part of the program. And she's had incredible results, but she was saying that her and her husband would fight a lot at night because of the sheets being off her feet, and he would want it on his feet. And so she was saying that that's something that, in a funny way saved her marriage, because they were fighting all of the time, and now she's able to have that sheet on her feet without it bothering her, which is.
Yeah, he wanted them all tucked in and she didn't want them tucked in. But also, what else about her, since we're on her, what did she come in wanting, and what has she achieved so far?
Yeah, she is an endurance horseback rider, which is incredible, and she's.
That's like 100-mile rides.
Yeah, and she's over the age of 40, shall we say. And she's awesome. But that was something that she loved doing, was riding. And for anybody who knows, riding horses, your feet are in stirrups. And whether you're doing it for an hour or, a weekend, that can really affect your feet. It's not the most comfortable thing in the world. And it was really affecting her, and she wanted to be able to ride because it was her goal and her passion and her hobby.
And she hadn't ridden for 6 months.
Right, she wasn't able to do it because of how much it was affecting her feet. And very shortly, in a very short amount of time, I mean, I'm talking weeks, maybe a month, 2 months, we got her to a point. Actually, I should say she got herself to a point where she was able to really ride for long periods of time. She actually went on an endurance camping weekend with her horses, and came back and told us about it, and was beaming that she was able to do it. And she did share it with some folks in her office. She didn't want to be on the radio, but we do have it for folks to kind of see when they come into the office. And that's just one of many amazing wins that patients on this neuropathy program are sharing with us.
Yeah, we'll share some more along the way, but go ahead. What else are people complaining about?
Pins and needles, not being able to feel the pedals when they drive,
That's a
which
big one.
is terrifying for the driver and folks on the road. We have a lot of spouses who, there was a period of time where we had a lot of RVers come in who are in their retirement season of life, and they have an RV and they like to travel. And the spouses are dragging them in because they're afraid of, that's a big thing to drive around an RV. And if you're not able to feel those pedals, that's pretty scary. So
Usually I just want to chime in too. This is the type of thing that usually a parent won't talk about. They won't talk to their spouse about it, and they won't talk about their children about it. Because what's the one thing people, I'm 68, so I can say seniors, what's one thing people are afraid of? Losing their freedom, losing their ability to move around, losing their ability to drive, and their independence. And we had one patient that early on who kind of said to me when we were treating her, I can't tell if my foot is on the gas or the brake, and I'm getting scared that I'm just going to give up my license. And then what happened?
Yeah, that was something that really fueled her, was she didn't want her kids to have to take care of her or worry for her. She's doing amazing. She's on our protocol, and she's also having amazing success.
No more problem with the driving.
No more problem with the driving. Anybody who's tuning in, we are talking about peripheral neuropathy and some symptoms that are very common that patients experience when they come in, that they tell us when they come in, and why they get our testing and get our protocols.
Hold on, before we get going, I'm going to do a quick commercial break. This is Dr. Duncan McCollum, KSCO Radio, on McCollum Family Chiropractic. I have Natalie here. She runs the peripheral neuropathy program at my office. But I do want to just say, any local music lovers, and especially in the jazz genre, you should make your way up to the What's it called up there in Davenport?
Davenport Roadhouse.
Yeah, the Roadhouse. I'm working on my protocols too. Come up to the Roadhouse tonight from 6 to 9. I'll be singing a few songs up there with Jazz on Tap with Rocky Pace and Suki and I. So Rocky, Suki and I will be doing some trio stuff. A lot of fun, nice way to get out of town, beautiful drive this time of year. So the Roadhouse in Davenport tonight, 6 to 9. Come up and join us and say hi if we haven't met before. Okay, end of break. So we were talking about peripheral neuropathy.
Mhm.
Natalie is here, who runs the course at the office and sees the amazing wins. And we're going to go over more of them along the way. But we left off just talking about pins and needles, which is really common.
Yeah, hey guys. So some other common symptoms or reasons why folks will come into our office for testing for peripheral neuropathy and to get on the program is like a bunched sock feeling underneath their feet. We live in beautiful Santa Cruz Beach town, and I'll hear often that they think there's sand in their shoes, and they're constantly taking their shoes off and trying to get the sand out, and there's no sand in there. So the feeling that they're walking on something when they're not is pretty common.
That's a pretty significant sign that the nerves in your feet are starting to die.
Right.
This is not anything to ignore at this point. We're going over some of these symptoms and just realize, like the letter I read at the beginning, it just starts subtly. You don't even notice it's there. And then you kind of notice it, and then it's just there.
Yeah, that's a very good point. We do hear that quite often, that the symptoms came out of nowhere and they escalate fast. And it's something that you definitely want to get on as soon as possible. A little spoiler for anybody listening here who goes, yes, I have these. I have trouble walking. I have trouble with balance, or when I'm in the shower, or, it worries me that I might lose my feet, and, all these things. There is hope and there is a solution. And that's why I'm joining Dr. McCollum here on the radio, because I want to make sure that all of you guys know there is a solution for peripheral neuropathy. And it's something that we see so often, and we get to help patients with. So if that's something that you are concerned you might have, you have a loved one that has peripheral neuropathy, if you have diabetes is the leading cause of peripheral neuropathy. If you've been around heavy metals, toxins, things like that. Some of the other things I hear often in our consultations for peripheral neuropathy patients is more of an emotional side. They know that they haven't been the healthiest, or they know that they have peripheral neuropathy. They were told years ago they've lost motion. They can't feel when they walk, and it's become a point where they can't go on family vacations. They can't go to soccer games to watch their grandkids play. They wanted to travel in their retirement, but they can't walk easily on uneven streets, and it's caused them to not go out and live that retirement life that they wanted.
Yeah, it's such a shame, because we've, most of them, and you all in my generation, we basically, went to school, or some of us did. One of my high school students is listening, so she knows I never went. But go to school, work hard, get a job, put away for the future, put away for your financial legacy, only to retire. And then the average male lives for about 17 months, and the average woman 23 months after retirement. The 73 to 78. Of course, they're raising that age of retirement now, so who knows what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But the point is, don't wait till it's too late to get started. Do something now. Be proactive. And by the way, we have this incredible special. Why don't you tell them about the special?
Yeah, absolutely. So when someone comes into our office for a peripheral neuropathy consultation, we have them come in. They meet our amazing staff. Emily runs our front desk. Casey and Angus, they are our soft wave technicians, and Mariah, who is the working on getting certified as a health coach, but she also helps in every area in the office. They come in and we'll have a consultation and we really sit down and find out what's going on and what you've been experiencing. And I will do thermal images. So peripheral neuropathy is, in short, a lack of oxygen to the extremities, a lack of oxygen and nutrients. And one way that I really understood the gravity of peripheral neuropathy was it was explained to me where if you have lack of oxygen to the brain, that's a stroke. If you have lack of oxygen to the heart, that's a heart attack. If you have lack of oxygen to the extremities, to your hands and feet, that's peripheral neuropathy. It's that intense. It's that life-changing. So we'll do thermal images as one of our tests, where we'll take pictures of your hands and feet and get a closer look at the lack of oxygen.
How does that
That area.
manifest? What do we see? How does that show up?
Well, ideally, in a very healthy hand or foot, it will be a beautiful yellow, orange color, very healthy oxygen hand and foot. When neuropathy starts to present itself, we'll start to see a lavender, a dark purple, a red in the, well, it really depends, but on the toes. Usually it'll start on the bottom of the feet or at the tip of the toes, and then it'll slowly creep up into the ankles and our neck. So thermal images is one of the things we do, but we don't stop there. We will do an exam on your hands and feet where we're actually testing the nerves, and I will have the patients close their eyes so that everything I'm doing, they're not anticipating a touch of something, but their nerves, they're letting their nerves tell their brain what they're feeling. And actually, this is something that we retest about 3 months down the road on the protocol, which is amazing. I have not had one person not have huge changes. So we'll do thermal images, we will do the exam, and then we'll take some x-rays as well. And all of this is a $99 initial visit, which actually also includes a soft wave therapy on the feet.
Yeah.
Which is incredible. And then what we do is Dr. McCollum and I will sit down and we look at all of the testing that we took on that first visit, and we'll have you come back and we will sit down with you for about an hour and really go over everything that we found and what we recommend. And one thing that is super, super important to us is education. I don't know if you guys have had this experience. I sure have, where I've gone into a doctor's office or a dentist's office or something, and I, of course, didn't go to dental school, or, you know, maybe even something more personal for women like an OBGYN. And they will, you know, do what they need to do, but you're not really sure what's happening. We want to make sure that our patients know exactly what's going on, and specifically with the neuropathy program, there's a lot that it's a commitment. You're doing a lot at home as well. It's a change of lifestyle. So it's very important that you are educated and are aware of what we're doing to get that nerve to go back up to a millimeter a day.
Yeah, so the science, if you get online, you can find out that the peripheral nerves, which are any of the nerves outside of your spine. So the nerves inside your spine are called it's called the central nervous system. That's like inside your house. As soon as you step outside the house into the garden, you're on the periphery of your property. Well, any nerves outside your spine are called the peripheral nerves. So the most obvious ones are the feet and the hands, but there are also organs that have problems, like the vagus nerve comes out of the top of the right below the skull, and it goes outside of the spine, and it goes to the whole endocrine system, all of the hormones. It goes to all of those glands and organs in your body. And a lot of times people will have weaknesses in function. I mean, even if you look at digestive disorders, if the nerves aren't working well, that could be a peripheral neuropathy.
Yeah, bladder.
Yeah, bladder, all that stuff. So we want to check it. And as we're looking for often what we call the perfect storm, which is, I mentioned earlier, we have the nerve, you know, the hardwired nerves. That's chiropractic, and it's tried and true, saved my life. I've been doing it for 35 years. I love it. But with all the toxins that have built up over the years, 250 billion tons a year dumped on the environment with glyphosate and now the forever chemicals, the adjusting alone isn't enough. The organs of detoxification get too plugged up. The liver, the kidney, the colon, colitis or inflammation of the colon is rampant. Leaky gut is rampant. So what we do is there's two different ways to look at this. Number one is we gotta bail out the boat. The boat's leaking, it's filling with water. If you don't bail it out soon, it's gonna sink. So what we're doing with the peripheral neuropathy program is really bailing out the boat. We're recovering the nerves as quickly as we can, trying to recover them as quickly as what your body is killing them, or quicker than that. And then we need to look for what's called the upstream cause. Is it caused by diabetes? How are you managing your diabetes? That's, 60% of the people in the country are diabetic or pre-diabetic. Do you have some other kind of autoimmune disease? Almost 95% have some type of autoimmune disease. 50% of our kids do. When I grew up, I think it was 5% maybe. So we go at this in many different ways, but the perfect storm is when you have a chemical problem, whether it's an organ problem like diabetes, this type of thing, digestive issues, physical issues with pinched nerves down the extremities in the back. And Natalie mentioned earlier that we have our therapy dog, Buckley, here with us, that goes around and actually, goes in and puts his head on you, which is pretty cool, because there's that mental aspect of love, that mental aspect of stress. And the last 5 years, we've been under a lot of stress. And we're seeing more and more disease now, not just chiropractic patients walking in, but this week alone, there were 5 people that I had to tell them they need to go to their medical doctor first because of the severity of their condition. And I don't like to do that. I like to say, come back when you get approval and we'll give them the data to give to the doctor. But we're in the best of times and the worst of times. We still live in the most amazing country in the world. But we're riddled with all kinds of problems. The mental stress, what's going on in the world, in our country, the chemical exposure we're affected with, or we're being affected with by. And, but the ones that come out on top are always the lucky ones. The lucky ones will survive. And luck has a definition where preparation and hard work meet. So you do the work, we'll show you how to do it. We do stuff in the office, you do it outside of the office, and we will make a difference.
Yeah, and one thing that I should tell all of you guys, you do not have to be in Santa Cruz necessarily to do this program. We have folks who are getting amazing results who are not local to Santa Cruz that I guide through everything. Now, ideally, they are seeing a chiropractor, and we help you find the best chiropractor wherever you are at, but you do not have to be local to Santa Cruz for this protocol. One thing that really, I'm 30 years old, and I have worked in this industry for quite a long time. And one thing that really woke me up in regards to this peripheral neuropathy that is how common it is, and the quality of life that is being stripped away from so many people, and the lack of answers, and the lack of hope, and the push to give something that is going to give side effects in a whole different world, which is gabapentin. Gabapentin is an anti-seizure medication.
That's what that's described that in
America for and this is what I'm speaking from my experience with patients in our office. But it was really eye-opening to me, and it gave me a whole new purpose in this wellness industry, which was, I think some of the things I hear the most that will stop patients from trying is insurance.
Oh yeah.
Which is very frustrating. I don't know about y'all, but I pay a lot of money to my insurance every month. And insurance can help in a lot of ways, but not in all the ways that we want it to. And we expect our insurance to pay for the things that we need. And unfortunately, our neuropathy program, there's so many things that we're doing to really get that nerve to grow back a millimeter a day, up to a millimeter a day. And insurance is not going to help as much as we would like. And that can be a stop. That can be a stop to people. And it is a stop to people. And the reason why I'm bringing that up for all of you guys is because it is going to take a little more courage to walk in our door and confront, to see where you're at with this disease, and confront and to hear how what it will take to turn this thing around. However, we have an amazing team, and there's so many patients who have given us loads and loads of testimonials that we're able to share with people, because sometimes we need to hear that other people have made it out okay to give something a shot.
Yeah, I'll address that and think of a couple more of the testimonials you want to share in
Yeah,
just a minute, but you know, that's the one thing that our country has been brainwashed into, believing that, you know, that if your insurance doesn't cover it, you're not going to do it. And it's a shame, because I know a lot of people that have remodeled their houses because they wanted a nicer house. Insurance didn't pay for it. I know a lot of people that have had to rebuild fun cars that they got that were toys. Insurance didn't pay for it. I know a lot of people that have different types of things that they love to do, vacations they want to go on because they want to do it emotionally. Insurance doesn't pay for it. And we have this affliction, and if you've listened to me say or you've heard me say this, the biggest 5-letter diagnosis we have is my insurance won't cover it. 5-word diagnosis, my insurance won't cover it. You know, they do cover some chiropractic, some of it sometimes, but really, if it's to be, it's up to me type of philosophy is what's going to get you your life. You know, what good is everything if you can't enjoy it? And what have you been putting your money away for if you can't enjoy it? You know, we've had family members care enough about their siblings or loved ones to say, hey, let me help you. And then these guys get their life back. I mean, the suffering that we're seeing, the gentleman that came in the other day, you know, we don't have to talk about him necessarily because we know we can help him. But any other thoughts on some of the wins that we've seen?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, like I was saying, for our neuropathy program, we get a good base, a good foundation for kind of to find out where you're at, but then kind of what to look back on and see the improvements on at the very beginning. So that includes the thermal images, that includes the nerve severity exam, which helps us get a sense for the sensory loss.
I'll just say there's 7 different tests that we do. We test hot and cold, cool, fine touch, deep vein or deep vibration. So many, you know, we test 7 ones that are standard in the industry. And if you go somewhere and they just stick you with a pin, they're not doing the standard tests.
Right.
And then we also do what's called a sway test, which is where we have you close your eyes and stand up, and then we're there to guide you. But if you start swaying, and you can do this yourself, but only if there's somebody with you, don't try it while you're driving. But you know, you stand up and you start swaying. Once you close your eyes, Natalie, you explain that well. What happens? What's the difference?
Yeah, well, for balance, there's a few things that we use for balance. So we have our eyes, right? We see where we're at, and that helps us stay on our 2 feet and not fall over. But if you close your eyes, if you're in the shower and you're washing your hair, or if you're getting up to use the bathroom because you're having bladder issues as a symptom of peripheral neuropathy, and the lights are off and you find yourself tripping or not being able to find your footing, that's because for balance, our feet send a message up to our brain. And that's part of what we use for balance. So if our nerves are damaged, on the bottoms of our feet or around our feet, it's probably going to affect our balance. So one thing that I test is, as we were saying, we have patients stand up, and I make sure that they're in a safe spot, and I'll catch them if they sway one way too far. But if you sway, that is a positive way for us to know that there's potentially some stuff going on with the nerves in the feet.
Yeah, you have 26 feet and 26 feet. That's pretty many. You're like a 2610. You know, you have 26 bones in each foot. So you have 206 bones in your body, and 20 and 1/4 of them, 52 of those bones are in your feet. And the nerves come out of your brain. There's only 31 nerves that leave your spine, and they go to 75 trillion cells. So you have damage to any of those nerves, especially in your lower extremity, it's going to affect the muscles that control the balance of those and the workings of those 26 bones in each foot to keep you balanced without you thinking about it. And it works with the inner ear. There's a gyroscope in there. And this is so important that we keep that working well. And so when we're talking about just what happens, okay, so diabetes is a pretty easy example. You have your blood vessels, and the one red blood cell fits through the capillary. Capillary are the smallest blood vessels in your body, and there are tons of them in your body. There's the red corpuscle needs to go through the capillary, and only one will fit it at a time. It's very, very tight. And when you get what we call glyphosated red blood cells, it's like sugar frosted flakes. There's a sugar coating on the red blood cell that scratches the wall of the capillary as it's trying to go through. Every cell goes through the same toe 4 times a minute, by the way. That's how much the heart pumps. And then eventually those glyphosated cells, which you might have heard A1C, oh, my A1C is high or low. I think 5.5 is about as high as you want to get. That you're clogging up these arteries and the arterial supply of oxygen and nutrients to the tips of your toes, not just the nerves, the cells, the skin, and the bones. And if you've ever seen anybody with advancing conditions of this, whether it's a diabetic or some other kind of autoimmune disease, it's not pretty, and you don't want to go there. So anyway, that's what happens. And we can turn over and talk about the treatments for a few minutes.
Yeah.
So there's a couple things that happen. The nerve is like a wire, hard wire coming out of your light. It's the wire going and plugging in your wall. The copper part is what goes back and forth and conducts the electricity. Around that, you have a plastic coating. That coating protects the wire itself and protects you from being electrocuted. In the body, it's the same setup, except for the coating is made up of fat and nerves. It's called the myelin sheath, fat and blood vessels, capillaries. And it's just loaded with capillaries carrying oxygen and nutrients, not only to the tissue, the muscles, the skin, and the bones and the extremities, but also to keep the nerves healthy. When those blood vessels get clogged up systematically by the long-term diabetes, chemical toxicity, alcohol abuse, cigarette abuse, chronic exposure to things like Roundup or glyphosate, industrial chemistry, chemicals, working in a shop forever. When I was a mechanic for 9 years, I would stick my hands in brake fluid at the end of the day because it got the grease off. Well, that stuff gets into your body and gets into the liver and plugs the liver. And when your liver gets plugged, nothing works right. And that's the beginning of the end, especially for peripheral neuropathy. So we have two things happening. We have a dying nerve. It's like that copper wire that goes to the wall. Instead of being, pretty thick, it's getting thinner and thinner and thinner. There may be one strand left, a wire, and the light blinks on and off. But also the plastic is disappearing. In other words, in your body, the myelin sheath is breaking down and dissolving. And so we have two methods. Why don't you talk about what we call the biofeedback or the...
Yeah, absolutely. So just for anybody new who's listening, my name is Natalie. This is McCollum Wellness Radio. I run the neuropathy program at our office, but also for folks who are not local to the area. And we have a $99 special that helps us get so much information and helps you get so much information. If you have peripheral neuropathy, it includes a consultation, a set thermal images, which really helps us for a foundation seeing what that lack of oxygen and nutrients looks like in your feet, the exam that we've talked about. And let's say that after that first visit, we know that there's some peripheral neuropathy going on that we got to turn around as quickly as possible. We are going to get you on a very thorough and thought out set of protocols that is successfully helping regrow that nerve up to 1 millimeter again. And what Dr. McCollum was talking about is the at-home portion of the neuropathy program. So what you're doing at home is massively important for regrowing those nerves. And one of which is called a rebuilder. So if you all could use your imagination here with me for a second, I want you to picture this beautiful field that has been watered and it's luscious and there's no path and it seems pretty dense. And you want to get from where you are on one side of the field to the other side of the field, but there's no path. So you're going to have to start off, pick a way you're going to start walking through this path. And as you're walking through that path, you are going to stumble, you're going to get some burrs in your socks. It's going to be hard to see the other side. But if you then turn around, once you get to the other side and you walk back and you go back and forth for a long time, soon you're going to start to establish a path where there aren't any weeds in the way and it's just a good path where it's easier for you to get from one end of that field to the other. And that is what the rebuilder does. It's going to send a message from the bottom of your feet to your brain 8 times a second. And it's going to start to rebuild the nerves.
Yeah, there's a term called neuroplasty. Neuro means nerve and plasty means it can continue to grow. And they didn't really understand neuroplasty, especially in the brain. They now know, they never thought it could occur. But now, so we're using this concept of neuroplasty with the biofeedback machine, like Natalie said, 8 times a second. And that's going to get a bigger, stronger, bigger, stronger, bigger, stronger nerve. And we know by science, look it up yourself, the peripheral neuropathy, if treated correctly, will grow 1 millimeter a day. So we're able to do it, but it isn't just about the nerve. What else do we need to do?
We gotta nourish that poor nerve. And almost every other part of the program is doing that. Do you want to explain angiogenesis?
Yeah, so angioneogenesis. Angio means capillary or blood vessel, and neogenesis means new life, or genesis means new, right? So angioneogenesis is the development and the growth of new capillaries. And this happens within that debunked sheath, the myelin sheath that we talked about a few minutes ago, that gets damaged because of the toxicity, because of the lack of oxygen due to the diabetes, the chemo therapy, the radiation, other kind of chronic autoimmune diseases people may have that are killing the nerves, and there's plenty. And it's like all roads lead to, or all chronic disease leads to peripheral neuropathy is my new tout that, because for so long people have been told about the diseases and then peripheral neuropathy wasn't talked about. It just happens to be a side effect, though you can't do anything about that. Let's get that liver fixed or whatever. But literally, peripheral neuropathy's been just kind of like, you talk to people and they just go blank because they don't know what to do about it. Well, we do. So we're talking about, we're talking about how to regrow the sheath around the nerve. The sheath, again, is the plastic part of the cord going from your light to the wall plug. And that's made up of fat and blood vessels, which carry blood and oxygen and nutrients to the newly growing nerves. So the rebuilder we talked about, establishing the path, that's one thing, but you've got to get it the right nutrients and the oxygen that it needs to grow. Just think about it's spring. You go out and you plant a bunch of carrot seeds. You can't water them once and walk away and expect them to grow. If you don't nourish those every day and pull out the big aggressive weeds along the way, you know, you're going to never have a carrot patch. But if you get them established, then they don't need that kind of care. You might have to water them once again and then go reap, you know, the benefits of all your hard work. Well, that's how this works. We're going to help you get the nerves healthy again. We're going to do the protocols, and I'll explain them in a minute, to now that we've got the nerve regrowing, we've got to regrow the sheath around the nerve. And this is, again, Dr. Duncan McCollum Family Chiropractic. Natalie's with me, who runs the neuropathy program at my office. And I'm gonna say again, come up to the Roadhouse tonight, 6 to 9 o'clock in Davenport to hear some jazz music. I'll be singing a couple tunes. You can see another side of me. And I do want to say this, over the last few weeks, and it happens quite often, people come in and they just say, wow, we like your show. And they're so nice when people are gracious about it. You know, like the other day, a gentleman who couldn't, we weren't right for him at the time necessarily, but I spent all the time in the world with him because we all need that love and we all need that care.
And it's education. Education it's vital for getting better in any area of your life, but we want to make sure that we take the time to not only hear you and hear where you're at and validate that, because life is hard, y'all. It is hard. And when we have symptoms and things that are stopping us from having the quality of life that we want, it's frustrating and it can cause a lot of poor effects. So we want to make sure that we're a safe place for you to feel that you can talk to us about these things that aren't being acknowledged in other medical offices, sadly. And then we educate you, which hopefully you guys have gotten a little bit more education on peripheral neuropathy today, which again is a lack of oxygen and nutrients to the nerves in your body. But we do have a lot of folks come in that talk about quality of life, that talk about fear of walking. And if you guys are just jumping on and listening to this, we have a $99 special, which includes 2 visits, actually. We come in twice. One where we do testing, and the second one where we let you know what we recommend and what that looks like, time-wise, financially, and everything in between. And that's $99. And you can call our office at 831-459-9990 and talk to any of the amazing staff that we have there, all who would love to help you. And even if just one of you guys calls in and feels like there might be some hope, I will feel like, Mom, I did a good job today, because that's all we really want, is to give hope and solutions for people out there when it comes to their health. And some of the things we've been promising that we're going to share some of the testimonials, and I would love to do that. So after about 3 months, I do some retesting. I will redo the exam that we did when you first come into our office. And I can very proudly say that I have not had one patient not have amazing results.
Improvements in the testing.
Improvements, yeah. Where we have this woman who had 80% sensory loss. Yeah. 80% out of 100. And after 3 months, it was down to 40%. And which is incredible.
How did she feel?
Fantastic. And she's continuing to get results. Because, it's going to take time. It's not something that we can, wave a magic wand over, unfortunately. I would love to do that. I would love to do that. But unfortunately, it takes some time, because it took some time to get to the point that you're at. We have had, one thing that's, I think, an important fact to say, it's not just folks who are over the age of 40 or 50. There are folks who are of all ages experiencing many of the peripheral neuropathy symptoms, because we know that it can come from many different ways. Diabetes is definitely the leading cause, but we all know diabetes is, what's the percentage?
60% of diabetic would be like that.
Right, and that's 60% covers a lot of ages there. So we have folks who are able to walk, able to go on vacation. A lot of the stuff that you do at home, you can actually easily take with you. So folks who are traveling to Europe and maybe going on uneven ground, cobblestones, which is so romantic, but also not that easily walkable if you have peripheral neuropathy. We've heard amazing testimonials from that, able to go to their grandkids' soccer games or baseball games and walk along the field. And one thing that's actually pretty cool is you know, you're regrowing that nerve. So you're starting to feel things that you have not felt in years. You know, some I had a patient who was telling me that they're getting this like buzzing sensation in their feet, and it's driving them crazy, but it's exciting because they're feeling something in their feet again, which is huge for them. And many more. And again, if I could just urge you to, if you felt like you've been through the ringer and you haven't gotten answers, and you were told there's nothing that you can do for the pins and needles in your feet, or the burning, or the bunched up sock feeling, please do yourself a favor and call our office. You can ask for me, but any of our staff are there to help you. Let's get you in for a visit and find out where you're at, and let you know what we can do to help. It's why we're there, it's why we're here, and it would be an honor to help serve you.
Thanks, Dan. I'm so glad you came on, and it's nice to hear somebody else other than me talk about what we're doing in the office and what we're seeing. And just some of the other things are being able to walk their dog.
Yeah.
So many people can't walk their dog, and we've had patients trip the dog and they pulls
Right.
on something, and they don't know where their feet are, just like driving the car.
I was just gonna say one really great testimonial. She's incredible, and she came in. She's, I think, in her late 70s, and she had checked off almost the entire list of symptoms. She is able to dance again.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And she's talking about how she dances in her kitchen and she dances through her house. And every time she comes in, she has tears in her eyes, and we have tears in our eyes, because she was getting results that she thought was impossible. And the reason why the dog walking reminded me was we have folks who work, they need to work, life is expensive, and it's that hamster wheel, that vicious hamster wheel of like, how am I going to work if I'm in pain and I can't use my hands and feet? Well, how am I going to take care of myself if I can't get to work? And it's that vicious circle, and we're getting people off of that ride that they didn't want to be on in the first place. And she is one of those people who is dancing. She dances through the office and through her life again, which is, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, this is so cool. Well, thank you all for listening. I appreciate you all out there, and so many of you have come in. For some reason, my books have been flying off the shelf lately too. It's just, I haven't even promoted them, but it's really fun. And my new book will be out, the second edition of Turn Back Your Biological Clock should be out within a month or so. I'm very excited about that. And come up to see us at the Roadhouse tonight in Davenport, 6 to 9. Come up, and I'll be singing a couple songs, some great jazz music with Jazz on Tap up there. Rocky Pace is the main vocalist. And the main thing is life is worth living. And if you, like Natalie was saying, you get on that hamster wheel of work and you go home just to sleep so you can go to work again, and you get the foreboding of, is this what my life is all about? I'm not going to be able to do the fun things. Even people stop entertaining or going to entertainment with friends at their houses because they just don't want to be a burden. They don't want to have to sit down. They're afraid of stumbling. They don't want to, can't take stuff to the kitchen, can't help in their own kitchen. So this is the time. It's spring. Spring has sprung. It's time for you to start springing around the planet. Come on in and get our test. The testing is $99. If nothing else, you'll have a baseline. And sometimes we find we can't help yet. So we're about to go out in a couple minutes with Dave Michaels. He's always here, awesome guy. Come visit him in his shop. Come visit us at the office. And we're going to go out with a Fab Four telling us what we need to do. And we'll talk to you all later. Thank you so much.
Bye, guys.
Now these days are gone, I'm not so self-assured. Change my mind, I'm open up the door. Tell me if you can feel that.